Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name's Lee. I'm from the team at Active Essex, and I'm delighted to be hosting this morning's seminar on utilising marketing to promote your offer. Before I introduce my colleagues who are going to take us through today's seminar, I'm going to touch on a couple of little bits of housekeeping. So today's session, we've got a presentation followed by some discussion. The session will be recorded and be made available on the Essex Community YouTube channel, so you can revisit it after today and share it with your colleagues. If you're attending this session live, you'll receive a follow-up email with a YouTube link and also other Your Essex Community resources. We have the chat function open today, so plenty of opportunity to ask some questions live. So please do that throughout the duration of the presentation. And as I said, today is part of the Your Essex Community offer. So Your Essex Community, if this is your first touch point, is a unified offer to support voluntary and community sector organisations across Essex. And it's really aiming to create conditions that help charities, community groups and social enterprises thrive, provide access to quality support across a range of different topics, and also to empower the voluntary and community sector to navigate challenges independently, connect with peers, and also strengthen their resilience. So currently through the Your Essex Community offer, just to touch on very briefly, we have an e-portal. So the e-portal is the digital element of the offer. This provides lots of information, advice, resources across a range of different topics like governance, safeguarding and trustees. This e-portal knowledge base is forever evolving and more content is always being added. So do check that out post today if you've not had access to the e-portal thus far. So the e-portal is part of our universal offer across the Your Essex Community support offer. It's free to access and any voluntary and community organisation can tap into that resource. The second element of Your Essex Community is about supporting community participation. And this element works strategically to create cultures and values that empower active and engaged communities. So as part of this offer, you can sign up to a county-wide community of practice. This is about an opportunity to connect with peers, showcase good practice, and the aim of this is about facilitating sharing and learning that really supports local organisations and public sector organisations to get their communities involved in local action. As part of that offer, there'll also be targeted local events where you can see community participation in action. Finally, the place-based part of the offer. So this is the element that Active Essex are leading on. We're working with local organisations to really understand the local needs of the sector and the best way that we can support voluntary sector organisations alongside local organisations. In addition to this place-based offer, there's a county-wide learning series of which today's seminar is a part of. And each district and borough now has an insight pack and also an insight-led local place plan, which has lots of local training events and learning opportunities. So that's live on our website now. So after today, please do check out what's available in your local area. Now back to today. So I'd like to welcome my colleagues Holly, Grace and Beth, who are our marketing and communications team at Active Essex. So the team are going to provide you with some top tips to implement and take away as soon as you leave this seminar, ensuring that you have something to try from the very get-go around utilising marketing to promote your offer. Holly, Beth, Grace, welcome. I'll pass over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Holly, Marketing and Communications Lead at Active Essex. I'm also, as Lee just said, we're also joined by Grace Hilton, Senior Project Officer, and Beth Higgins, our Marketing Officer as well. So we are going to, Lee's just basically opened it for us, which is great, but a whistle-stop tour of marketing that gives you a snapshot of the process and ways that you can sort of implement straight into your work. So what we're really hoping today is that we're sort of breaking down each element of how we would approach a project, a campaign, a brand, and basically making sure that as we take you along those steps throughout the sort of 50 minutes today, that you actually have something that you can take away at the end. So we're going to have a couple of reflective pieces where you can sort of dive into what this might look like for you, for your organisation. So I do recommend, if you haven't already, please grab a pen and paper because you might need it throughout the session today. As Lee said, use the chat function if you have any questions. And what we'll do is, if we have time at the end, we'll make sure that we answer and go through some of those questions. But if we don't get time for all of them, we will make sure that we respond in a sort of a follow-up email alongside the recording link later today as well. So first of all, we're going to kick things off with Grace.
Thanks, Holly, and hi everyone. So we're just going to start off with a little bit of an icebreaker, just so we can kind of gauge or have an idea of where you kind of rate your marketing skills. So if you could just in the chat pop on a scale of 0 to 5 what you think your marketing skills are, 0 being have no idea at all, and 5 feeling like you're an expert, which in that case you might not find this webinar very relevant. But yeah, if you could just pop them in, then we can have an idea on where you guys are at. Okay, so lots of 1s and 2s, couple of 3s. So if you're a 1 or 2, you're in the right place, because hopefully we can teach you something today. 6 and 3s. Okay, no 4s or 5s, so that is good for us. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, we've moved up at least 1 point and feel a bit more confident with marketing.
Great stuff. Good to know that we've pitched this right then. Beth, should we kick things off?
Yeah, happy to. Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Hi guys, my name's Beth. I'm going to kick things off with a little bit about what is marketing and how it can help you, and sort of defining your brand. So we kind of look at marketing, which focuses on understanding customer needs and delivering value through strategy, branding and engagement, and then we pop together sort of a little definition which explains sort of marketing is a strategic process of connecting an organisation's offer, whether it's a product, service, event or cause, with the people most likely to benefit from it, which also involves understanding your audience, crafting compelling messages and delivering those messages through the right channels to inspire action and behaviour change. We sort of look at marketing as the overall strategy and process of promoting, selling and distributing a product or service, which can in turn sort of build long-term relationships and brand loyalty, as it also involves storytelling, positioning and creating meaningful experiences. Marketing also sort of raises awareness, builds trust, encourages engagement, clarifies value, expands reach and drives those results that we want. We also wanted to touch on a little bit around marketing and actually advertising, and sort of maybe those differences that needs to sort of be explained. So we look at advertising as a little bit of a subset of marketing and more of a tool to support marketing, as it's used to communicate messages to target audiences and is one way to raise awareness and drive action. And raising awareness is also that sort of key goal of marketing, and it's all about making your brand recognisable, trusted and preferred. Obviously, successful marketing also integrates multiple tools and channels to create a cohesive brand experience.
So Beth just mentioned obviously sort of marketing and advertising, but we also wanted to throw in that word branding as well, and what's the difference and why they sort of both matter. So the brand is very much who you are as an organisation, what makes you, your values, the reputation that you want to relay to your audiences. And hopefully you've already got a brand that's sort of already established, but the perception that you have to your audience is built around your brand, so your brand toolkit around your colours, your logos, etc. And that's who you are as a BCS organisation, and it should provide that emotional connection to residents. But marketing gives you more of that opportunity to really shout about what you do, and sort of make sure you tell people from the rooftops, shouting it loud about your promotion of your message, and really highlighting the different methods that you can communicate with your audience, which we're gonna come on to later. And marketing today is what we really want to focus on. So how we normally start this very early process of making sure that our brand is reaching the audience that we really want to. And through our marketing, we start off by building an audience persona. So this really helps sort of sharpen your focus around, as an organization, who do you want to make sure that you're targeting and you're reaching with your product and your messages. So it might be around your demographics, making sure that we've got the audience's age, their gender, what they really value in their lifestyles. It might be they've got digital habits. It might be that they've got a real barrier to utilising technology. And it also might be that, you know, we need to think about ways that they interact with your organisation, whether it be a face-to-face perspective around actually if they're in a really urban area, can they get that transport? And so building sort of that audience persona really helps to understand the barriers and motivators that we might want to think about around what then messaging and what platforms we utilize around with our audience, and who we want to really engage with and interact with our brand. So we've also got a couple of questions at the top of our slides to make you think a little bit more deeply. So for our audience, we really need to make sure about we're understanding as an organisation, what are you really trying to achieve? And it might be that you're already really engaging with an audience, but are they the right audience for what you want to achieve? So as I mentioned at the very beginning, we've got a couple of reflecting pieces. So what we're going to do is throughout the session, we've obviously just spoken about audience. Now we're going to have a bit of a reflection on your audience. So we call this free writing. It's an ideology that's quite common. And basically how it works is all I want you to do is grab that piece of paper and your pen and write out who your audience is. So think about who you're trying to reach as an organisation. What are their needs? What are their motivations? What are their barriers? So the real thing around free writing is I'm going to give you 45 to 60 seconds and you're just going to scribble. Don't stop scribbling. That's the key. So starting now, so let's think about your audience. Where do they spend their time? Is it online? Is it offline? Have they got a barrier to engaging with you currently? Do you have a specific age for your audience, an area, a locality in Essex? Are you looking at Essex wide, and actually is there multiple audiences that you might want to engage with? And if that is the case, that's great. But where can you have the biggest impact with the resources you have? So I'm just going to give you another 20 seconds to think about your audience for your organisation. As we start to come towards the end of that 45 seconds, just circle a particular audience where you're like, actually, yeah, if I go away today and think about that audience and really targeting those particular individuals, where is the biggest impact that you can have from a marketing perspective? What audience is that? And we find that actually this focus brings real clarity around making sure that the message and everything that falls out of that marketing collateral actually is key to making sure that we're engaging with the right audience. So now we've got the audience, let's start to think about the messages.
Yeah, as Holly said, you may have multiple audiences, so therefore your key messages might vary slightly for these audiences. But the things that we kind of really start to think about when we're thinking of our key messages is kind of three main things. So you have your primary message, which is kind of your core strategic statement. So this is the big thing that you want your audience to remember, and this will form the foundation of your marketing and comms going forward. Your secondary message is a message that will support and expand on your primary message and provide additional context, so kind of give a bit more clarity of to what you're trying, the aim of what you're trying to kind of portray. And then your proof points are more like your evidence and your stats to kind of back up your primary and secondary message to make it credible. And this kind of starts to build trust with your brand or your campaign that you may be running. And then there's three things as to why key messages matter. So there's clarity, consistency, and persuasion. So clarity helps to eliminate confusion for your audience. So if it's a bit vague, your audience aren't going to be aware of what you're trying to achieve. And it also helps to simplify your offer as well. Consistency, this unifies your brand voice and again builds trust and recognition. And persuasion kind of pulls on those like emotional triggers that will resonate with your audience, and also focuses on the benefits and why people should get behind this. And then there's just some other key things that we think about as well. So when you're thinking about your kind of core messages, keep it simple and only think of 2 to 4 key messages that you're going to utilize either throughout your branding or throughout your marketing. If you have any more than this is just going to dilute the focus for your audience and it will overwhelm them. But it will make sure that your messages are kept consistent across all channels. And it's really kind of important to recognize that repetition isn't boring. It's part of your branding. So you may think that you're repeating the same thing over and over, but the more that people will hear it, the more they'll remember it, and they'll kind of resonate that with your marketing. Language and tone. So we'll come on to this in a little bit more detail later. But this kind of influences your engagement that you'll get from your audience. So it could be that you go down a more formal route or casual. It could be inspirational. It could be quite direct. It could be kind of impactful. And I think understanding your audiences will make it clear on kind of what language and tone you need to go with your key messages. Credible stats. So as mentioned in the proof points bit, this kind of builds trust. So kind of anything that you can use to kind of back up your primary and secondary message will really kind of enhance what you're trying to achieve. Audience personas. So Holly mentioned this previously, so hopefully you've already kind of written down some points on your target audiences. And then adapting messages across channels. So this ensures relevance and maximizes impact. And if you are kind of aware of what channels you're using at the moment, you might also begin to see that each audience has a different culture and audience. And again, we'll go into this in a little bit more detail further on, because it might be that you are kind of talking about the same thing, but you might just need to adapt that wording slightly to make it relevant for each channel. So your next little task, so just thinking about your primary, secondary messages, and maybe just jot down some ideas on kind of what you think your core strategic statement should be. What is the one thing that you want your audience to remember? What is really important to you? And then what is that kind of secondary message that you kind of want to use to back up your primary message? What can add a bit of context to that? So just give you 45 seconds just to kind of use that free writing exercise just to jot down your ideas.
Thank you. Hopefully you found that task really useful. So now we're just going to go on to looking at different sort of marketing methods and how they can resonate with your audiences and the best way to use them. So looking at sort of digital and print methods of marketing, both play a really vital role in marketing and both have different benefits. Digital offers that sort of speed, reach and data, while sort of your print methods offer tangibility, trust and that real lasting impact. So if we look at the different types of digital marketing, these are just some on there. There are obviously more, but we think these ones would benefit sort of your offer. So this includes sort of different social media platforms, paid advertisements, whether that's through social media, newsletters, showcasing that sort of story and impact, and use of a website, which will really sort of set your brand and tone, as well as sort of sharing videos and photos of your offer and that impact as well. That digital marketing piece is really highly measurable. So looking at sort of those analytics, engagement and conversions, which shows sort of what methods will work for you and what doesn't. Digital marketing is a bit more cost effective and scalable, as well as sort of reaching those different target audiences. Digital marketing allows for sort of real-time updates and targeting. You can really specifically target certain audiences through different digital marketing methods. And it's ideal for sort of reaching wider audiences as well, and increasing your engagement online, and just really setting the tone on sort of showing who you are, and defining that brand. And then if we look sort of at print marketing, this can kind of include things sort of like posters, flyers, brochures, direct mail, magazine ads, local magazine ad, newspaper ads as well. Looking at those sort of community events and what is being offered in the community and how you can sort of go and support that and be a part of it. Community notice boards, local partnership, business cards. These are all sort of tangible and often more sort of memorable and authentic type of marketing, when you have something physical in your hand, or something sort of like to look at, it can be a little bit more memorable than digital sort of online, which can be a bit more fast paced and on the go. Print is a little bit more useful for, like I said, sort of like community based and local marketing, especially for niche audiences as well. And it also helps to build a bit more trust and credibility through sort of physical presence, obviously being present at community events, showcasing your face and speaking to residents, and sort of being there and offering your offer in person can make a huge difference. So going back to sort of summarising that, sort of choosing the right marketing method does depend on audience, budget, goals, etc. and messaging, but and they're often sort of most effective when used maybe through like a mini campaign or using sort of some of those at once. And then the key sort of element we've really understood through marketing is really embedding yourself into your local community, essential for sort of building trust, enhancing meaningful relationships, meeting people, speaking to people, which is really key. Which also sort of ensures your offer and services or work reflects and supports the needs for residents, which is really key. Also building that sort of relationship with residents and sort of local businesses, etc., can massively help that as well. And then sort of looking into a bit more of a deep dive in social media. Obviously one platform we massively use at Active Essex, across the board, really powerful marketing tool that just can allow organisations like yourself to connect directly with audiences in real time as well, which is really key. A couple of sort of top points there. Great for connecting with audiences, different audiences as well. It's free or low cost, can be effective, as well as you can do sort of paid ads through it as well. So it kind of depends on budget, etc. It can be sort of a one for all. It's really accessible and scalable, so you can do as little or as much with it, which is really, really helpful. Which also offers sort of high potential reach and engagement. Looking at social media, it's a massive, effectively can help boost awareness, encourage interaction, and build sort of those lasting relationships within communities. And then we look at sort of the right platforms to use, as we understand social media has sort of different target audiences. Across the years, we've sort of used different social media platforms and kind of really understood what works and what doesn't with audiences, and we continue to do that at Active Essex. So it's really key to understand that through your offer. So let's sort of look at Facebook. Really great for that sort of community group, relationship, events, local engagement. As you know, a lot of sort of residents are part of community groups and are on there discussing sort of what's happening, what's on, and it's sort of a great free tool to use that. Instagram, it's really a visual and creative platform. We kind of use that for stories, etc., reels, videos, which is really key. Sort of that real-time engagement, showcasing what's happening now, what's happening tomorrow, which is a really key platform. We used to sort of use it as a younger audience platform, but over the sort of year, we've seen a shift in that target audience, and as we continue to use social, we learn about the target audiences and how they change and how social media can change, and how we have to sort of learn to adapt to new platforms. So it's really key to understand that. Looking at LinkedIn, so that's really good for sort of that B2 business marketing and professional networking. A lot of sort of organisations are on there, and we find it's quite data driven as well, which is key to share, sort of showcasing that impact. And then looking at a bit more sort of video creative around TikTok and YouTube. So again, video based content, and we've recognised that is our sort of younger audiences, that's focusing on younger audiences, so we definitely utilise that. So obviously the different platforms definitely attract different audiences, and we've learned that over the last couple of years in the platforms we use here. So definitely choosing the right one to ensure your message reaches people who you want to engage effectively is key. And then we want to sort of look at how and actually what we want to share. Depending on your offer, it can be different. So a good use of videos and photos to make sure content is sort of fresh and up to date. Sharing those real life stories and blog pieces about the impact you have is really key. Remember to sort of tailor your tone, visuals and topics to your different target audience, around obviously different ages as well. It's great to keep sort of your messaging short, clear and consistent. Over the last sort of year or so, we've looked at how our messaging and the amount maybe we might write in a post changes on different platforms, and sort of the layout of that as well. So it is really key to sort of understand that and try and get your message across in the most relatable and accurate way. Using hashtags and tagging sort of relevant members or partners in, and also responding to them, if you get people commenting, etc. Making sure that engagement is kept up, and having that conversation with someone online if they're asking questions, always remember to reply. And posting regularly as well, just to stay visible and relevant. I think consistency, when you post consistently on socials, over a period of time, kind of builds that rapport with residents, and they kind of have an understanding of what you offer, and seeing that same sort of message again and again is really key, to sort of make them remember who you are, what you offer, and to ensure they want to be a part of what you offer. There's obviously a couple of questions up there to have a think about as well.
So we briefly touched upon language and tone earlier, but this just kind of goes into a little more detail and also gives you all an example of posts that we did when we launched our Find Your Active, Move Your Mind campaign back in July. So you'll see snippets from what we posted on each channel, but just to kind of give you an idea of where the language and tone may shift slightly. So for instance, with Facebook, for us, it's very much a business to customer platform. So we want to make sure that this content is very approachable, friendly, community driven, and kind of tells a bit of a story and makes it very personal. So someone will read that and think, okay, I can relate to that. I think it's more informal language than formal. And we kind of try to use real life examples of how that might influence other people to kind of get on board with the campaign.
Thanks, Grace. So obviously we launched on Instagram as well, and that has sort of a bit more of a visual. We look at Instagram as more of a casual, visual and fun platform. I think we use it, and we showcase more of who Active Essex is, and our personality and creativity through sort of the language and the visuals we use. It's a little bit more of a playful platform, really focusing on those reels and stories as well, that we prioritise, as well as we capture the imagery or the video to showcase what we say, as well as we use Instagram to highlight sort of behind the scene moments, real life stories, and just those sort of visually appealing sort of updates. We find that on Instagram it's a bit more consistency, authenticity, and comes through that, and it's more of like a business to customer platform, and the language and tone should sort of like match that as we go through. So I think when we look at things social, it's great to understand that language and tone, and definitely ensure that can be tailored slightly different on each platform, so we're hitting those right target audiences.
And then LinkedIn is very much on the other end of the spectrum, where it's more a business to business focus. So we'll tailor this content for our partners and stakeholders, and these posts can be a little bit longer, and you can actually write for articles on LinkedIn now, and they can generate quite a bit of engagement. So that's kind of one to think about. But this will have more of a professional and formal tone. And we've kind of noticed that using stats within these posts, just kind of to have some backing as to why we're doing this campaign. We find that really kind of resonates with that audience too, because they'll automatically go to that. We've also found that hashtags work very well on LinkedIn, but making sure that they are at the end of your post rather than embedded in your copy. We found that weirdly disrupts your engagement and how many people see that. So that's just a kind of a bit of a tip there. But yeah, LinkedIn's very good for kind of using your system partners to kind of really showcase what you're doing and how they can get on board with it.
Fab. A lot of marketing methods there from Grace and Beth, and really thinking about that deep dive into social media. And as Beth said at the beginning, social media is really that key platform. It's free and you can utilize it in lots of different ways, and those different platforms really help. Just I guess to just quickly summarize and pull that all together a little bit for you is, you know, with social media, we can really utilize it for awareness, for engagement, for that community building. Beth and Grace just mentioned about obviously Facebook and that real community vibe and messaging that can go on Facebook, and that's something that's really pivotal and been really useful for Active Essex, and I know that will be for other VCS organisations. And that content, as the girls have just said, are all around sort of that storytelling, that real-time updates and that visual content. And what's great about social media is you can really tailor the platforms that you utilise depending on what audience you want to engage with. We want to look into email marketing. And this is really good for sort of those organisational updates, a bit more personal messaging. You might say, actually, I want to have some different email marketing that goes out to different types of audiences, depending on what you want to relay. And that content can include anything from sort of those email reminders about an event that you might have going on to sort of that more generic newsletter blog style. But it can really mean that you can really time your content depending on what's going on for you as an organisation and what you want your audience to hear. Again, as Beth mentioned around that sort of digital versus print, that printed material is great for local visibility and really key for those audiences that perhaps struggle a little bit with technology, or they're offline and you want to engage with them in a different way. And you can really make sure that your messaging is clear. But what you really need to make sure is that it's action orientated. So you might want to create a poster that's highlighting an event that you're holding, or a community fundraising specific webinar that you might be doing, like we have. But you have to really make sure that there's that action that comes off of the back of it. With printed material, try less of this is us as an organisation, but make sure that there's that action that sits behind it around what you want your audience to do once they see that material. And finally, sort of the events and outreach, and I think this is really key for VCS organisations around sort of building those relationships within the community, whether that's based at sort of resident base, but also other organisations that are in your community. Really helps build that trust and gives you that direct feedback as well. And this content from events and outreach could be anything from those taster offers to a partnership with a local organisation, a market stall, a career event. It can be in such a wide range of opportunities, but really helps you and your brand and your organisation to get out there and to really establish yourself as a key organisation within the community. So I know we've just thrown so many different marketing methods at you, but let's just have another sort of free writing task where you've got sort of a minute to really think about, well, what off of all of those different marketing methods that we've just spoken about, what would best resonate with your audience, and how would it make sure that you're targeting the correct audience through the correct platform? So think about your audience's habits, what your organization's goal is, and what we actually try and really think about at Active Essex is you don't have to just choose one. Combine methods for that greater impact. So if you're doing an event, you might do some social media whilst you're there. You might then flag up a newsletter, email content a couple of days afterwards to really showcase what went on, what happened, what the outcomes were. So try not to just do one or two. Combine those methods and you can reach and relay that message a lot more consistently and to far greater audiences. It might be that actually you've got a new class or a session that you want to highlight on social media, but have you also updated your website? Have you created a flyer or a poster to perhaps advertise in your local community notice board? It's really important that we don't try and do everything though. So you've got sort of 30 more seconds to just think about all of those methods that we've just highlighted. What ones would be key for you? And as we start to just wrap up, I just want you to circle two things. So two methods that you've written down that you really would like to try or give a go as soon as you finish this webinar in about 20 minutes time. What two things would you want to execute straight away? Let's go through some tools and tactics to try and pull all of that together.
Thanks, Abby. So yeah, these are kind of some easy tools to enhance your assets, awareness and engagement. And these are generally low risk, high impact strategies. So some things that you can kind of get started on straight away. So I'm just going to go through some kind of platforms that'd be good to kind of utilize. So Canva. So we're on this every single day, nearly all day. This webinar has actually been created on Canva as well. So it's you can get a free version of Canva to create like professional looking graphics, social media posts, presentations, anything creative you can think of, you can create on Canva. And there's some free templates as well you can utilize. So if you've not the most creative person, there's loads of templates you can utilize to kind of get you started. There is a paid version, I think for Pro, it's like £100 per year, so it's not expensive at all, but that'll just kind of open up to some more graphics, icons, photos that you can utilize in your designs. So MailChimp is a user-friendly email marketing platform that has templates you can use, as well as automation and audience segmentation. So this is a good way to kind of send out newsletters that you may have. And then we really recommend using a social media scheduling platform. So I've just listed a couple there. So you've got Buffer, Later and Hootsuite. So these can be free platforms, and it just kind of helps set out your posts. It sometimes gives you a grid view. So if you're posting on Instagram, you can kind of really see what your content looks like. And you can schedule it to go on a certain time, day. It will give you pointers on when it's kind of best to post to engage with your audience the most. And this kind of really helps you plan your content rather than just doing it ad hoc. Google Ads is a powerful way to get immediate visibility for offers, especially with local targeting. Meta Ads Manager, so I know Beth mentioned about paid ads earlier. So you can run paid ads on Facebook and Instagram, and they have it's really kind of easy. They have step-by-step instructions on how to kind of set that up, and you can also select how much kind of budget you want to put behind that and how long you want that ad to run. Linktree, so you may have seen this on Instagram. So you have a link in your bio. Sometimes you want to put more than one link to something, so it could be to a blog or it could be to a survey or a form. Linktree allows you to kind of put multiple links on that, so when people click on that, they can select which avenue they want to go down. And then Google Analytics is really good to track your website traffic and understand which channels are driving conversions. and maybe kind of what pages aren't really hitting your target audience. So it might be worth then thinking, okay, what can I change on this page to kind of get more views? Just a couple of tactics that we found to have worked. So your call to action, so make sure they are clear on every single post. Without a call to action, you're not going to get that engagement. So kind of really make sure that you're clear on what they are. So it could be like, okay, if you've got a webinar, it could be book now. If you are promoting a toolkit or a guide, it could be download the guide here. So just some examples there. Email campaigns with urgency. So if there's urgency to something, people are more likely to interact with it. So they don't want to miss out. So you kind of think about that when you do your language and your tone on certain posts. Landing pages with benefits and testimonials. So we've mentioned before that relatable content and user-generated content really helps to build trust with your campaign or your brand. So just kind of think about that. Limited time offers and bundles. So for instance, if you are setting up a talk program and there's limited spaces, kind of make that clear in your post, just to kind of encourage people to not click around and act on it straight up. And then collaborations with micro-influencers. So it could be now, especially for community-based organisations, so kind of micro-influencers are more engaging and relatable to our audience than these kind of bigger influencers that you pay a lot of money for. So kind of really kind of hone in on who in your community can you lean upon to kind of help amplify what you are trying to achieve. And then there's some common so mention call to actions before. Okay, when people aren't going to know what to do, so they'll just engage with your content. Overcomplicating the message. So I know we mentioned in the key messages, but keep it full, have that clarity, that consistency, kind of get the point, just so people are 100% sure on what you are trying to portray. Trying to get everywhere out of the state. So there's so many platforms now, and people then need to go them. You don't. You need to figure out which ones are going to engage your audience best. And if that's one platform, fine. But you don't need to be across all of them, because you'll end up just kind of posting content for the sake of posting content, and you're not going to get that engagement with it. So just hone in on the kind of 1 to 2 where your audience is most active, and then kind of do those well. We always say it's quality over quantity. And then ignoring analytics. So we look at our analytics all the time. We do a monthly social media and website dashboard to see kind of what posts are performing well and what didn't. And then we kind of look at those and think, okay, why is that not working so well? And if it's like, okay, that's not hitting that audience in that channel, we know going forward, we're not going to post content like that on those channels. Website, Google Analytics will tell you kind of what pages are working on your website, and that's really kind of important to ensure that you're just don't ignore analytics.
Thanks, Grace. So this slide is going to go into a little more detail on how we actually share impact and the storytelling piece around it. So we know that storytelling is a really powerful way, showcase impact and highlight sort of your offer. And by sharing those real life and relatable stories, that content connects a bit more emotionally with your audience, which is really key. So we always start with sharing the story. So we wanted to break that a little bit more down into like a bit of a scenario. So we look at sort of our hero. So what is your customer or community? And then we look at sort of the challenge and what problem are they facing. So what in your area, what are residents needing, and how you can support them. The solution, looking at how does your offer help, or what your offer can do to support them, help, and then we look at sort of that transformation and what has sort of changed for them. We like to sort of showcase that relatable content. We've been doing that through our Find Your Active Move for Your Mind campaign, and we highlight sort of how a resident has made small but meaningful lifestyle changes, and by sort of sharing those stories, we can create a connection that others can sort of relate to, and showcase just even those small little steps can lead to positive change, and that obviously helps that inspire that behaviour change, and it showcases that personal and achievable goal. So just looking at a few more sort of tips around that storytelling piece and how you can showcase impact. So start off by sort of clarifying that impact and defining the change that you're making, and using those really sort of key stories to illustrate that. Also keeping it relatable. Human-centered sort of storytelling is really key. Sort of showcasing how you've supported or helped someone can sort of help show how that emotional connection comes through your audience. So that's really key. Really good to understand sort of the right channels to sort of showcase those stories, and how that messaging might tailor across different channels. So you can do it for social media, email, website, sort of showcasing reviews, pictures of how people have changed, transformed, etc. And like I said, just tailoring that messaging to each platform is really key, and just making sure to be sort of transparent. So sharing those wins and challenges. People like that kind of authentic content. So we understand not everything is perfect, not everything might go great, but actually sharing that's really key for people to understand sort of how you can just support and help. And it builds that trust, especially through that honesty, which is really key as well. So sort of sharing that impact through marketing just means communicating positive sort of social, environment, or economic outcomes to engage your audience effectively, and sort of really build that trust and rapport with your audience, which is really key. I think we have one more task that we would like for you guys to give a go. So really thinking about sort of that storytelling, and we know that UGC is one of the most powerful tools VCS organisations can use. You're bedding yourselves in the community, and sharing those stories helps share your impact and makes it relatable. So really thinking about sort of what stories do you have that you could share? Is there anything you can think, I can share today or tomorrow? And it's really good to think about that sort of key message and the audiences you have identified throughout this webinar. And how would that resonate with your audience? So I think we have about 45 seconds to a minute maybe, and yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep this quick because I know we're running out of time, and I'm very much aware that we've bombarded you with a lot of information this morning. But if you're kind of thinking, oh gosh, this is really overwhelming, I don't know where to start, here are some ideas. So creating a basic content calendar. So I mentioned before, you can use Later, Buffer, Hootsuite to kind of produce this, or even an Excel document. You can use to plot out the weekend. Update your website. We mentioned, make sure your content is all up to date. So people, when they go to that page, they know they're getting the most up-to-date information available to them. Create a newsletter. So we've mentioned various platforms. So there's MailChimp, we've used Stripe before, and they're really easy platforms which have easy template builders that you can just kind of drag and drop and create your own newsletter template. Plan ahead. So this will give you bigger impact rather than creating ad hoc content. You can theme your content around certain things that you've got coming up, or utilise awareness days as well to target your content. Mapping your local area to utilise assets. So what is there in your local community that you can utilise to promote your offer? So could it be putting posters up in your GP surgeries, giving leaflets out to schools? Is there a local notice board you could utilise? We often forget there are so many around that we can use for marketing. Reshare content is an easy and free way to share across your channels. Same with like UGC, user generated content, that's already there for you to utilize. So reshare that across your channels, and then exploring partnerships with local organisations. So this will really help to amplify your offer and your content, and also boost awareness. We find that kind of working alongside local organisations, you often have in some sort of way the same sort of message that you're trying to share. So kind of building partnerships together to really enhance what you both offer.
Thank you. As Rachel said, fully appreciating that we've a lot at you, but we were really conscious actually we make sure that we really reflected and shared our insights on what we think has been the best things for sort of Active Essex and to share that insight and that learning with you guys. And you know, as we reflected on at the beginning, it might be that you were perhaps at that sort of 2-3 confidence level around marketing, but hopefully we've helped you sort of push that back up, and hope you've sort of taken away some things that you can really implement. What we were really keen to do was make sure that you've got something that now at 11 you can go into your next piece of work for today and really think about and drive in that sort of marketing angle around understanding your audiences and making sure that you can really highlight the offer and the great stuff that you're doing as part of your organisation. So hopefully that's been helpful. I know that it's been a whistle stop tour, and I know we've got literally 2 minutes left because we want to make sure that you get away to give your silent 2 minutes for Remembrance Day today. So we will make sure that we wrap up soon, but I know there's some questions in the chat. So what we'll do, if you guys don't mind, is we'll pull all those questions out and make sure that we've got responses to them all, and we'll circulate that to you all later on today. Fully appreciating that. We should have had a bit more time at the end, but we're marketing individuals and working comms, so we love to chat. So sorry about that, but we will make sure that we answer all your questions and get them back over to you later today. But hopefully you enjoyed the session. If you did, or you want to give us any feedback, please do utilise the QR code on the screen, and we will make sure that we send that link out following the webinar later today with the recording. So thank you once again. Thanks Beth and Grace as well, and hopefully you've got something to share. Lee, I don't know if you want to give final closing remarks, or if we can let these people go.
You've done my job for me, Holly. Just a massive well done. Thank you to the three of you for pulling that together. Fabulous session, and I think you definitely delivered on your promise of giving everyone in the audience today some practical tips to take away with them straight off the bat. So well done. Just to say, in the chat function as well, I've put the link to the survey for feedback. We do really value your feedback, so really if you could just spend 2 or 3 minutes just completing that today, we'd really appreciate that, as that will inform future Your Essex community opportunities too. That leaves us to say thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, and the links and recordings and all of the resources will be with everyone shortly. Thanks a lot.